Hello students, I am Dr. Amit Bhatnagar, working as Senior Research Officer in the Department of Agronomy at JB Pant, University of Agriculture and Technology, Pantnagar, Uttarakhand. In this lecture, I will tell you about the difference between in situ and ex situ water harvesting. As we know that water harvesting is the collection, storage of runoff water, and there are different methods of this storage of water. So in water harvesting, our purpose is to store the water, particularly from the runoff. And there are many advantages and different methods of water harvesting. And this water storage and water conservation can be done on the field where crop is grown or outside the field where crop is not grown. So on these two bases, where is the location, where water is stored, water harvesting can be grouped into two parts, and these parts are known as in situ water harvesting and ex situ water harvesting. So there are two broad groups on the basis of where water is stored. So if water is stored in the field, inside the field, then it is in situ. If it is outside the field, then ex situ. So in situ means inside and ex situ means outside. Outside means field. So it means if we see the difference between in situ and ex situ water harvesting, the site of or location of water conservation, obviously rainfall water conservation, is inside the field. So suppose this is the field and crop is grown, then water is stored in field and water is not allowed to run off outside the field. So whatever rainfall is there, where water falls, it is stored. It is not allowed to move. It is not allowed to run off. जहां पानी गिरा बारिश का फील्ड में, हमको वहीं रोक देना है, पानी को बाहर नहीं जाने देना है. And such type of water harvesting is called in situ water harvesting. While in case of ex situ harvesting, the water storage side is outside the field. Means suppose this is a field, then water is allowed to run off, water is moved, then at a suitable place, at a lower place, the water is stored. Means water is not stored at the place where it falls. It is falls at a one place and stored at other place. So such type of water harvesting is called ex situ water harvesting. And in ex situ water harvesting, water is collected from a small part or a large part. So the area from water is collected, runoff is collected, that part is called catchment area. So in this case, inside water is not allowed and as such it is stored. Now what is the approach? Why we differ inside and outside? Because our approach is different. That's why we have two types, in situ and ex situ. In case of in situ, our objective is to store the water. So that's why we try to increase the infiltration inside the soil and the percolation and the recharge of groundwater. So our approach is to increase infiltration. Once infiltration is increased, percolation is increased, then water move downward into the soil. It remain in the root zone, then further percolate, deep percolate, and it join the groundwater table, and then groundwater table rises. तो इससे क्या होगा, जब इन्फिल्ट्रेशन बढ़ेगा, पर्कुलेशन पानी नीचे जाएगा जमीन में, जहां हमने बारिश हुई वहीं उसको पानी को रोका, तो वो ग्राउंड वाटर टेबल जो है ऊपर उठेगा, और जब ये ग्राउंड वाटर टेबल ऊपर उठेगा तो हमारे इरिगेशन के पर्पज में ये काम आएगा और ओवरऑल एग्रीकल्चर हमारी इंप्रूव होगी. सो हेयर अप्रोच इज टू इंक्रीज द इन्फिल्ट्रेशन एंड द ग्राउंड वाटर table. And in case of ex situ, since water is collected from a large area, that's why water is stored in different type of structure. So huge quantity of water is stored. So this water is used for many purpose, and that our approach is how to collect more and more runoff, so that more and water is collected. So approach is to divert the runoff. To divert runoff, because runoff is there, if rainfall is more, definitely there is runoff. So divert the runoff to a suitable place where it can be stored. And this storage area may be natural or may be artificial, and this storage is known as reservoir. So approach is in Act C2, whatever runoff is there, divert them to a natural or artificial reservoir. So here more emphasis is on diversion of runoff, and here emphasis is on infiltration and percolation and recharge of groundwater. Now, what is the purpose? The purpose is different. Why? Here our approach is to increase the infiltration, percolation, and here our purpose is to divert the runoff and collect at a reservoir where it can be stored for a longer period. So here purpose is, once infiltration is increased, percolation is increased, so soil moisture remain in root zone. So that's why it provides the soil moisture. So purpose is soil moisture for the crop, availability of soil moisture for crop which is being growing at that time. तो यहाँ हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव यह है कि जो रेनफॉल हुई है उसको वहीं स्टोर कर लो और उस समय जो क्रॉप ग्रो हो रही है उसको मॉइस्चर मिल सके. सो मेन पर्पज इज टू सप्लाई द वाटर टू मेक द अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ द मॉइस्चर फॉर द क्रॉप फॉर द सेम सीजन. जो उस सीजन में जो क्रॉप ग्रो की जा रही है उसके लिए वो मॉइस्चर मिल जाए. सो हियर इज द मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव. एंड सेकेंड वन इज टू रिचार्ज द ग्राउंड वाटर सो दैट वाटर इज अवेलेबल फॉर द नेक्स्ट सीजन. So major is to make the moisturability for the same season and the recharge of groundwater for the next season. But here in case of Act C2, now purpose is many purpose. It is not only for the availability of the moisture for the crop. No doubt we use water harvesting for irrigation for agriculture purpose. But in case of Act C2, water is stored in large area. So this water can be used for agriculture, for irrigation, for drinking purpose, for livestock, for any other purpose, for domestic purpose. So there are many use. There are many use of water. It is not only one purpose. Here the major purpose is that soil moisture remain in the field so that crop may grow properly. So Act C2 has many purpose including agriculture, drinking water, livestock, household, डोमेस्टिक पर्पस एंड मे बी फॉर अदर पर्पस. कोई बहुत सारे चीज़ों के लिए उस पानी को हम यूज़ कर सकते हैं Act C2 में. केवल एग्रीकल्चर ही नहीं है, जनरली जो विलेज में दूसरे एरिया में यूज़ किया जाता है ड्रिंकिंग पर्पस के लिए उसको यूज़ किया जाता है. देन नाउ व्हाट आर द मेथड्स, व्हाट आर द मेथड्स ऑफ in C2, because we are conserving the water inside the field, we are storing the water inside the field. So this is the field inside the field. It means we have to store the water and not allow the runoff outside the field. It means we have to increase infiltration. We have to increase more and more amount of rainwater into the soil. So methods are generally agronomic measures. Agronomic measures are used. Cultivation practices, actually these are the cultivation practices. Cultivation practices are used because it is used in the field, so that's why agronomic and cultivation practices are used for in situ water harvesting. And in case of Act C2 water harvesting, since we have to divert the runoff, we have to collect, we have to store over a large area, and we have to store a huge quantity of water, so it is not very easy. So we have to make some constructions, some structures are required, some infrastructure is required. So that's why engineering structures are required. Engineering methods or engineering measures are involved in Act C2 water harvesting. तो Act C2 में हमको कुछ कंस्ट्रक्शंस करने पड़ते हैं, कुछ स्ट्रक्चर बनाने पड़ते हैं, इसलिए वहाँ कुछ इंजीनियरिंग की जरूरत होती है. और इन C2 में हमको केवल खेत के अंदर रोकना है पानी, तो एग्नोमिक प्रैक्टिस जो है उससे काम हो जाता है. What are the examples? Since these are agronomic measures, cultivation practices. So if we want to store the water inside the field, so very good example of in situ is bunding, proper bunding around the field, inside the field, so that water is stored and not move outside the field. Then terracing, different type of terraces are made. then broad bed and furrow, and this broad bed and furrow store the water in furrow. Inter row water harvesting, इंटर रो में जो है वाटर हार्वेस्ट होता है. इंटर प्लॉट बंड्स, सो सपोज दिस इज द फील्ड एंड दिस इज द bunds, interplot bunds, and here water is stored. Ridge and tie ridging. What is that ridge and tie ridge? Ridge are the elevated area in the field on which we sow the crop, and suppose these are the ridge. So these are the ridge on which we grow the crop. Okay, this is the elevated area, and this is the furrow. If we make the ridge, then elevated area is ridge and depressed area is furrow, then water is stored in furrow. Okay, and this furrow should not be very long, otherwise water may move along the furrow. So that's why this ridge or a bund is made, or these ridges are tied at a particular place. Okay, like that. So this is the ridge tying, this is the bunding between the two ridges. So this area acts as a micro catchment. This area, this is tie ridging. This is known as tie ridging. Means first make the ridge and tie the ridge, tie the two ridge or connect the two ridge by making bunds. So this is the agronomic measure. Agronomic measure, very good agronomic measure is deep plowing, because deep plowing increases the aeration, increases the infiltration and percolation. Then mulching. Mulching also help in water conservation because it has obstruction to runoff water. Then it increases the porosity. So that's why it help in increasing infiltration and percolation. So these are very good examples of agronomic measures and cultivation practices. Cultivation practices means contour farming. Contour are the line which are perpendicular to slope. Suppose this is the slope. Suppose this is the field and slope is in this direction. Okay, so we can make the bunds perpendicular to this direction. This is known as contour bunding. If water flow, then water has obstruction from this bund, so water runoff velocity decreases and then it has more opportunity time for infiltration percolation. Okay, this is contour bunds. So if we make the bunds, then cultivation practice contour farming means if make the, suppose we can go for harrow like that, or we can go for harrowing in this direction. So if we go for harrowing for this direction, then this is the slope. This is the slope direction. If we go for in this direction, then soil erosion increases. But if we do the harrow, plowing and other practices, sowing, etc., then it is against the slope. Okay, then runoff decreases, soil erosion decreases. So this is known as contour cultivation practices or contour farming or contour practices. So we should adopt it contour farming. So this is the cultivation practices. So these practices help in conservation of soil moisture at the place where rainfall falls. Then ex-situ examples, since water is stored over a large area, construction is required, and water is stored in a natural or artificial water reservoir. So this water reservoir may be pond, maybe tank, maybe percolation tank, maybe check dam, maybe small dam, maybe anecut, maybe khadin. So there are different type of structures. So ये जो ex-situ में जो हम पानी को स्टोर कर रहे हैं, बहुत बड़ा पानी हमें यूज करना है, तो हमें बांध बनाना पड़ेगा, तालाब बनाने पड़ेंगे, टैंक बनाने पड़ेंगे, percolation टैंक बनाने पड़ेंगे, ponds हैं, sunken ponds हैं, farm ponds हैं. तो these are the examples of ex-situ. क्योंकि बहुत बड़े एरिया से जो पानी आ रहा है बह करके, चाहे नेचुरल कोर्स से आए, चाहे हम उसको डाइवर्ट करके लाएं, उसको हमें स्टोर करना है. तो वो हमको तालाब बिना तालाब बनाए स्टोर नहीं हो सकता, बिना बांध बनाए वो स्टोर नहीं हो सकता. तो दैट्स वाई केस ऑफ ex-situ, डैम, टैंक, ponds, these are the examples of water reservoir. Then storage quantity. Since water is stored inside the field, huge quantity cannot be stored. There is a limitation. Okay, if there is excess rainfall, then rainwater move across the bund, and bunds may be break and water can move. So there is a limitation. Huge quantity cannot be stored. While in case of XC2, there is a large pond, huge dam. So huge quantity of water can be stored depending upon the structure type. कि किस तरह का स्ट्रक्चर है. अगर डैम है तो बहुत बड़ा पानी स्टोर किया जा सकता है, छोटा पॉन्ड है तो छोटा पानी स्टोर किया जा सकता है, बड़ा पॉन्ड है तो ज़्यादा पानी स्टोर किया जा सकता है. तो इन XC2 ह्यूज क्वांटिटी कैन बी स्टोर्ड. देन दिस availability period. Since water is stored inside the soil only, okay, so water is infiltrate, percolate, and then it is utilized by the crop in the same season. So availability period is small or less, we can say less, particularly for that season. So in situ water harvesting is particularly for that season and hardly for the 1 to 2 3 months for next season. So availability period is not large. While here water is stored over a large area, there is a pond, dam, it can be stored for many months. So availability period is large, 4 months, 5 months, even 1 year, depending upon the what is the storage capacity, what is the structure type. Then soil erosion, chance is less, or we can say negligible or less chance, since water is stored here and not allowed for runoff, and soil is eroded by runoff. Since there is no chance of runoff, that's why no chance of soil erosion or very less chance of soil erosion. While in case of XC2, runoff is diverted from a large area, okay, then it is collected here, tank, pond or dam. So once water move, then it carries some soil also. So that's why careful diversion is required. So there is some chance of soil erosion. So maybe chance, if water runoff speed is not controlled, velocity is not controlled, so there may be chance of runoff. So that's why when runoff is diverted, because there is a diversion of runoff, some careful management is required. So XC2 require very careful management, engineering structures. Then cost, since actually this in situ water harvesting, bunding, terracing, contour farming, we do such type of practices for the normal crop. So that's why no extra cost is involved. No extra cost. No extra cost is involved. Just we have to change the pattern of bunding, interplot bunding, outside the bunding, then plowing तो करते ही हैं, mulching. So no extra cost is involved and it can be made by farmer. तो बहुत ज़्यादा पैसा इंस्टीट्यूट में नहीं लगता है, क्योंकि वो प्रैक्टिस हम करते हैं, बस उसको करने का तरीका चेंज करना होता है. तो ये कोई इसमें इन्वॉल्व नहीं है ज़्यादा कॉस्ट. बट इन केस ऑफ XC2 वी हैव टू मेक ए डैम, वी हैव टू मेक ए पॉन्ड, वी हैव टू मेक ए वाटर रिजर्वेयर. तो हमको ये सारी चीज़ें बनानी है. दैट्स वाई फंड इज रिक्वायर्ड, मनी इज इन्वॉल्व, सो कॉस्ट इज इन्वॉल्व. फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस इज गिवन बाय गवर्नमेंट. अगर डैम बनाना है तो कोई गांव ऐसा पॉसिबल नहीं है, विलेजर्स या फार्मर्स उस डैम को बना सकते हैं. हालांकि छोटा पॉन्ड बनाना होगा तो फार्मर ने फील्ड में बना सकते हैं छोटे पॉन्ड, बट फॉर लार्ज पॉन्ड मनी इज इन्वॉल्व. दैट्स वाई ए पार्ट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस इज गिवन बाय गवर्नमेंट. सो दीज आर कॉस्ट इंटेंसिव, और वी कैन से दे इन्वॉल्व कॉस्ट. सो XC2 में कॉस्ट आती है और ये कॉस्ट का जो लार्ज पार्ट है जनरली गवर्नमेंट देती है. Then constant, what are the problem in situ water harvesting? So in case of in situ water harvesting, what we do, हम क्या करते हैं कि जो रेनफॉल हो रही है, we try to infiltrate more and more rain water. So first constant is a problem in infiltration. If soil is suppose clay, so there is an infiltration problem. In clay soil, there is a clogging of pores, then water start to move, run off. So if there is clay soil, clogging of pores, there is no infiltration, and water wasted as a runoff. So this is the problem. The soil factor is very important. What type of soil is there? If soil is light textured, then no problem, water is infiltrated. So soil type is the problem. If it is heavy soil, definitely more runoff, poor infiltration. Second is presence of surface hard layer. Suppose in surface hard layer 20 centimeter below the soil surface or 30 centimeter there is a hard layer, then water will not percolate and the storage capacity of soil will reduce. तो अगर नीचे कोई hard layer आ गई है तो पानी infiltrate तो होगा लेकिन नीचे percolate नहीं होगा. So this is the problem with the hard layer. Then area is slopey. If area slope is more, then it is very difficult to store the water because there will be more velocity, more kinetic energy of water, and it will break the bonds. So in slopey area, it is difficult to store the water inside the field. So soil factor and the topography and the relief and hard layer, these are the constraints in situ. So that's why we want to, for in situ water harvesting, area should be leveled, there should be no hard layer, and we should adopt to measure to increase the infiltration and percolation. And in case of ex situ water harvesting, the problem is that because we are diverting the runoff from a large area, and during the diversion of runoff water, suppose this water is coming from the large area, it causes soil erosion. So this is the problem, that if we divert the runoff, there may be chance of soil erosion. So it means how to divert with the safe velocity. This is the constraint. So velocity of runoff is the constraint. Velocity. If velocity is high, definitely it will cause the runoff. So major constraint in ex situ is safe diversion. क्योंकि runoff water बहुत बड़े एरिया से आ रहा है और उसको हम डाइवर्ट कर रहे हैं एक पर्टिकुलर स्लोप की तरफ. अगर इसकी स्पीड बहुत ज़्यादा हो गई या रेनफॉल बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया तो रन ऑफ बढ़ेगा, उससे उसकी वेलोसिटी बढ़ेगी, वॉल्यूम बढ़ेगा, उससे सॉइल इरोजन ज़्यादा होगा. सो दिस इज द कांस्टेंट. सो सेफ डाइवर्जन is required. Second constant is the storage capacity. What is the storage capacity? Suppose runoff diversion is high and storage capacity is low, तो क्या करेगा, पानी पूरा बह करके निकल जाएगा. तो the storage and the storage capacity should be according to runoff. So this is the constant with respect to runoff. स्टोरेज मीन्स व्हाट इज द स्टोरेज कैपेसिटी ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर स्ट्रक्चर. मान लीजिए पॉन्ड हमने बनाया, पॉन्ड हमारा छोटा है और रन ऑफ बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया, तो उस पॉन्ड में मिट्टी भर जाएगी फिर, क्योंकि पानी के साथ बहुत रन ऑफ आएगा, मिट्टी आएगी और वो पॉन्ड का एग्जिस्टेंस नहीं रहेगा. सो इन केस ऑफ एक्स सिटू मेजर प्रॉब्लम इज डाइवर्जन ऑफ रन ऑफ विद सेफ वेलोसिटी सो दैट इट मे नॉट कॉज सॉइल इरोजन. सो दिस प्रैक्टिस आर अडॉप्टेड डिफरेंट लोकेशन अकॉर्डिंग टू द need and purpose and the objective. So we should follow both type, in situ and as well as ex situ. So in situ water harvesting provide the soil moisture for the same season for the current season crop, and ex situ water harvesting provide the water, huge quantity of water for longer period and for many purpose, for drinking, for livestock, for domestic purpose. So this is the difference between in situ and ex situ water harvesting. Thank you very much.